Hello students, good morning to everyone. This is M. Bujibabu working as a chemistry lecturer in Vignan Cooperative Junior College, Vadlamudi. So in this morning session, again I am going to explain the regarding chapter is solid state. So in the solid state chapter, still now I did completed 5 videos. So of course this is a last video regarding the concept of the solid state. So once we recall what we learned in the last video, so in last video we learned about imperfections or defects which are present in the given crystalline solids. So what are imperfections and what are defects? So you know that very well. There are two types of defects are there: point defect and line defect. So point defect and line defect. Again they are classified into stoichiometric defects and non-stoichiometric defects. So in that stoichiometric defects, there are some of the defects are occurred in ionic compounds and some of the defects occurred in non-ionic compounds. So especially in the examination point of view, there are two important topics are there, that are Schottky defect and Frenkel defect. Both are happening in ionic solids only. So in case of non-stoichiometric defect, there is a metal excess defects and metal deficiency defects. Some of the defects which are presenting on the presence of the extra cations and due to the anionic vacancies. Okay. Next thing is impurity defects. Next thing is impurity defect. So in this video, I am going to explain a new topic regarding to this video. So once we have to look the contents what are present in this video are: first one, electrical properties of solids. What are they? Electrical properties of the solids. So basing on the conductance of these solids, the solids can be classified into, basing on the conductance of a substance, they can be classified into conductors, semiconductors and insulators. So how their conductivity will be depending upon, and how their conducting ranges are presenting in different types of solids like conductors, semiconductors and insulators. And next one is magnetic properties of the solids. So magnetic properties of the solids. These are all very important: electrical properties and magnetic properties. So basing on the magnetic character, each electron presenting in the given solid substance, it acts as a tiny magnet. So basing on the tiny magnetic properties of the electron, so they are classified into different magnetism: paramagnetism, diamagnetism, ferromagnetism, antiferromagnetism, ferrimagnetism, etc. So these are regarding to the magnetic properties of the solids. And come to the first one, electrical properties of the solids. Electrical properties of the solids. So on the basis of electrical conductivity, the solids can be broadly classified into 3 types. How many types? 3 types. So basing on the electrical conductivity, the given solids can be classified into 3 categories. So first one, conductors. First one is conductor. Its conductivity range is 10 power 4 to 10 power 7 ohm inverse and meter inverse. So basing on the conductivity range from 10 power 4 to 10 power 7 ohm inverse, meter inverse, that solids can be called as conductors. And come to the next one, insulators. For this, their conductivity is 10 to the power minus 20 to 10 to the power minus 10 ohm inverse, meter inverse. So these are all the solid substances are can be called as insulators. And final one is semiconductors. Their conductivity range is 10 power minus 6 to 10 to the power 4. 10 power minus 6 to 10 to the power 4. That solid substance can be classified as can be called as semiconductors. Okay. So basing on the electrical conductivity, the substances can be classified into 3 categories: conductors, insulators and semiconductors. So come to the first one, the conductivity of solids may be due to movement of electrons, holes or ions. So the conductivity of the solid is attributed to the free movement of ions or holes or movement of the electrons. Okay. Ionic solids such as pure alkali halides do not conduct electricity at room temperature, So ionic solids, for example, like alkali halides do not conduct any conduct electricity at a room temperature, because when their ionic solids at a room temperature, so this is the condition, ionic solids at a room temperature are insulators. However, due to the presence of vacancies and other defects, these solids show slight conductivity which increases with the temperature. So at room temperature, generally the solids are act as a insulators, because there is a no movement of free electrons, that's why they can act as insulators. Therefore, due to the presence of vacancies or any other defects, the solids show slight conductivity which increase their conductivity with increasing of temperature. Okay, so conduction of electricity in insulators and semiconductors. Once we have to take a look the conduction of electricity in insulators and semiconductors. Come to the first one. In insulators, the energy gap between valency band and conduction band is very large. So in case of insulators, the energy gap between the valency band and the conduction band is very large. So the electrons of valency band cannot be promoted to the conduction band. As a result, such substances do not conduct electricity even at high temperature. So because in insulators the gap between the valency band and the conduction band is very large, therefore the electrons of valency band cannot be promoted to the conduction band. So as a result, such substances do not conduct electricity even at high temperature. Okay, so what about in case of semiconductors? In case of semiconductors, the gap between valency bond and the conduction band is very small. The gap between the valency bond and the conduction band is very small. Therefore, some electrons may jump to conduction band, show some conductivity. Some electrons may jump to conduction band, that's why they show some conductivity. So the difference between the insulators and semiconductors: in case of insulator, the gap between the valency bond and the conduction band is very large. In case of insulator, in case of semiconductors, the gap between the valency bond and the conduction band is very small. So therefore, the electrical conductivity of semiconductors increases with increase in temperature, because with rise in temperature more number of electrons can jump from valency band to conduction band. So it is a necessary condition to increase the conductivity of semiconductor. There are two important properties to increase the conductivity of semiconductor. We have to follow two important methods. First one, increasing the temperature, and the second one is doping process. So when increasing the temperature, more number of electrons are jump from valency bond to conduction band, So therefore, if more number of electrons are jumps from valency bond to conduction band, the conductivity of semiconductors is automatically increases. So look at this image. In that image, this is the metal. In that metal having, so this is a partially filled band and this is a overlapping band. So this partially filled band and overlapping bands as shown is like this manner. So look at this image. For in case of insulator, this is a conduction band and this is the filled band, valency band. So forbidden zone, large energy gap. So I already mentioned in the previous slide, the energy gap between the valency band and the conduction band. Valency band and conduction band is very large in case of insulator. That's why the migration of electrons from valency band to conduction band is very less. It is not possible. So due to the large gap between the valency band and conduction band. So come to the in case of semiconductors. In case of semiconductors, the valency band and conduction band, the energy gap is very less. Therefore, automatically the electrons are easily migrated from valency band to conduction band. Here conduction band is empty band. So valency band is filled and conduction band is empty. So due to the small energy gap between the valency band and conduction band, the electrons are easily migrated from valency band to conduction band in case of semiconductors. That's why semiconductor shows conductivity property. And next important point regarding to this one is the conduction by pure substances such as silicon and germanium is called intrinsic conduction, and these pure substances exhibiting electrical conductivity are called intrinsic semiconductors. So this is a very important definition. What are intrinsic semiconductors? So for example, the conduction by pure substances like silicon and germanium is called intrinsic conduction, and these pure substances exhibiting electrical conductivity. Okay, a conductivity which is exhibited by the pure substances like silicon and germanium, they are said to be intrinsic semiconductors. They are said to be intrinsic semiconductors. So therefore, next one, the conduction of semiconductors can be increased by adding a small amount of suitable impurity. This is a very important point. This process is called doping process. So I already mentioned, to increase the conductivity of semiconductors, we have to follow two types of methods are there. First one with increasing temperature, and second one is doping. So doping means to increase the conductivity of semiconductors by adding a suitable impurity. So that suitable impurity, that process is known as doping. Therefore, such semiconductors are called impurity semiconductors or doped semiconductors. So such type of semiconductors are called impurity semiconductors or doped semiconductors. Therefore, with increasing of temperature and doping process, semiconductors conductivity will be increases. Next one, doping can be done with an impurity. Doping can be done with an impurity which is electron rich or electron deficient, relative to the semiconductor. So doping means adding of little bit amount of impurity to the silicon and germanium. This doping process can be done by the rich or deficient relative to the semiconductors. So first one, electron rich impurities. What is meant by electron rich impurities? So in case of electron rich impurities, we have to clearly seen here. So electron rich impurities means silicon and germanium. So silicon and germanium doped with 15th group elements. And then n-type semiconductors are obtained. What are they? N-type semiconductors are obtained. So in these are known as the electron rich impurities. If silicon and germanium doped with the 5th group elements, the obtained semiconductors are known as n-type semiconductors. So now I am trying to write the mechanism for this one explanation. Here silicon and germanium are these are all semiconductors. Silicon and germanium are semiconductors. Like this we have to write another. So silicon and germanium are semiconductors. So to increase the conductivity of semiconductors, what we are doing, sir, we are adding a suitable amount of impurity. Here impurity is 15th group elements. Here impurities are 15th group elements. Here impurities are 15th group elements, that are nothing but 15th group elements means nitrogen family, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic and antimony and etc. Okay, to increase the conductivity of semiconductor, we are adding a suitable amount of impurity, that is known as doping process. Here the dopant, the substance which is added to the semiconductor. Here semiconductors are silicon and germanium. Here we are adding the 15th group elements. These 15th group elements are called as dopands. These are known as dopands. These are called as dopands. So the substance added as a impurity to the semiconductor that are known as dopands. Here, when we are adding, what is the mechanism on going here? 15 group elements adding as a dopant to the silicon and germanium. Here, the important point is this silicon and germanium are belongs to 14th group element. Silicon and germanium are 14th group elements are silicon and germanium. So they contain 4 valency electrons. They contain 4 valency electrons. Okay. The group number is equal to number of valency electrons. Basing on that principle, here silicon and germanium both are belongs to 14th group. They contain 4 valency electrons. Come to the next one. Here 15th group elements. 15th group elements, they contain 15th group elements like nitrogen, phosphorus. They contain 5 valency electrons. They contain 5 valency electrons. So group number is equal to number of valency electrons when these 15th group elements are added to the silicon and germanium. Silicon and germanium belongs to 14th group and 15th group elements are dopas. 14th group elements contain 4 valency electrons and 15th group elements contain 5 valency electrons. When these 15th group elements are added to the 14th group elements, out of these 5 valency electrons, 4 valency electrons are participating in bonding. 4 valency electrons are participating in bonding with a neighboring silicon or germanium atom. So extra 1 valency electron is left. Extra 1 electron is left. This is a mobile electron. This is a mobile electron. So this is a freely traveled from one place to another place. Therefore, due to the free movement of the electrons, so the semiconductors, they possess the conductivity. So once look at the image. So in that image, take the semiconductors like silicon. This silicon or germanium. Here I took the silicon. So group number is equal to number of valence electrons. It contains 4 valence electrons in outermost. So this is a 4 electrons. When 15th group elements are added to these silicon and germanium, 15th group elements are added to the silicon or germanium. So out of 5 valence electrons, they are able to making 4 bonds with neighboring silicon. So therefore, here in place of silicon, some of the 15th group elements like nitrogen or phosphorus are occupied. 1 extra electron is left. That extra electron is known as mobile electron. So look at this image. So this is mobile electron. This mobile electron can be freely traveled from. Look at this image. So it displays this electron. This is a mobile electron. This is the freely traveled from, and once again it comes from this one. So it is freely traveled from one place to another place in that throughout the crystal. So that is the free movement of electron or a mobile electron. So therefore, due to that free movement of electron, the conductivity of the semiconductors will be increases. Therefore, in the particular case, why we call it as electron rich impurities? Why it is called as electron rich impurities? Here we adding an dopant like 15th group elements in that out of 5 valency electrons, only 4 electrons are participating in bonding. 1 extra electron is left. 1 extra electron is left. Therefore, that extra electron is left. So that's why they are called as electron rich impurities. Electron rich impurities means they contain extra 1 electron. They contain extra 1 electron. So that's why these when 15 group elements are adding as dopants to the silicon and germanium, the obtained semiconductors are called as n-type semiconductors. So come to the next one, electron deficient impurities. Electron deficient impurities. So what is meant by electron deficient? The semiconductors like silicon and germanium doped with 13th group elements or third group elements, then p-type semiconductors are formed. If silicon germanium doped with 14th group elements, n-type semiconductors are obtained. As like if silicon germanium doped with 13th group elements, then p-type semiconductors are obtained. So once you have to look at the image. So before going to the explanation of this image, I have to write the phenomenon what is going on here. So I already mentioned in the last slide, if silicon and germanium both are belongs to 14th group elements that are semiconductors, they contain 4 valency electrons. So they are doped with 13th group elements, 13th group elements like boron, aluminum, etc. 13th group, the third group family, boron and aluminum, gallium, etc. So these contain 13th group element, third group contain 3 valency electrons. So in silicon germanium there are 4 valency electrons are there, but in case of 13th group element they contain only 3 valency electrons. So for bonding purpose with the neighboring atoms here, one electron is deficient. So one electron is deficient. Therefore, if one electron is deficient in case of p-type semiconductors, therefore the deficient electron appeared as a hole as shown in that image. Once you have to look at the image, it is represented by the hole. So the deficient electron is represented with the hole. So this is known as So once we have to see in here, this is a representation of p-type of semiconductor. So each silicon or germanium surrounding with the 4 neighboring atoms, and one electron is deficient. That deficient electron can be represented as a hole as shown in that image. This is a hole as shown like this image. So therefore the type of semiconductors which are obtained when silicon and germanium doped with 13th group elements, that are p-type semiconductors, and they are called as electron deficient impurities. So why they are called as electron deficient impurities means here we are adding 13th group elements, but for bonding 4 valence electrons are required, but in case of 13th electrons they contain only 3 electrons, therefore 1 electron is deficient. That's why the impurities which are added for the formation of p-type of semiconductors that are known as electron deficient impurities. So this is the main classification of the semiconductors as n-type semiconductors and p-type semiconductors. These two are very important in examination pattern also. Come to the next one, applications of n-type and p-type semiconductors. So what are the applications of n-type and p-type of semiconductors? In that one, first application is a diode is a combination of p-type and n-type semiconductors and used as a rectifier. So that is the use of the rectifier. So what is that? That one is a rectifier. A diode is a combination of p-type and n-type semiconductor is called used as a rectifier. And next one, the sandwich. The sandwich semiconductor of the type NPN or PNP are used to detect or amplify audio signals. These are used to make transistors. So sandwich semiconductors like NPN or PNP type can be used as a detectors or amplifier audio signals. So they are used to make transistors. Therefore, the solar cell is an efficient photodiode. This is used for converting light energy into electrical energy. So this is another application of the semiconductors. Solar cell, an efficient photodiode. So it can be used to converting light energy into electrical energy. So this is the brief introduction regarding to the semiconductors and applications of semiconductors. So next one, magnetic properties. So what are magnetic properties? So the magnetic properties of materials are due to the magnetic moments of the electrons present in it. Okay, the magnetism associated with an electron originates from its orbital motion and spin motion. Okay, so the magnetic properties of materials due to the magnetic moments of the electrons present in it, magnetic momentum of electrons present in that particular substance. So the magnetism associated with an electron originates from its orbital motion and spin motion. So basing on the orbital motion and spin motion of the electron, the magnetism associated. And next one, does each electron, this is a very very important point, each electron in atom can be considered to be a small magnetic, therefore having permanent orbital and spin magnetic moments. So this is a very very important point. The electron presenting in the matter, it can be considered as a small magnet having permanent orbital and spin magnetic moments. Okay, the fundamental unit of magnetic momentum, magnetic unit of magnetic momentum is called Bohr magneton, represented by the symbol mu b. Bohr magneton represented by the capital mu b. So what are the units for mu b is equal to 9.27 into 10 to the power minus 24 ampere meter square. So for the calculation of the magnetic momentum, the unit is known as the Bohr magneton, represented by symbol 9.27 into 10 to the power minus 24 ampere meter square. So come to the first one. So based on the behavior of substances when placed in the magnetic field, these are classified as follows. These are classified as follows. Based on the behavior of the substances, the magnetic character can be classified as follows. First one, paramagnetic substance, okay, and second one, diamagnetic substance, and third one, ferromagnetic substance, and fourth one, anti-ferromagnetic substance, and final, ferrimagnetic substance. So there are the main classification of magnetic substances: paramagnetism, diamagnetism, ferromagnetism, anti-ferromagnetic substance, and ferrimagnetic substances. So come to the first one, paramagnetic substances. Okay, paramagnetic substances, substances. So what are paramagnetic substances? So paramagnetic substances means the substances which are weakly attracted by magnetic field called paramagnetic substances. So the substances which are weakly attracted by extra magnetic field, that are called paramagnetic substances. Therefore they are magnetized in the same direction. So this is due to the presence of one or more unpaired electrons which are attracted by magnetic field. Therefore the paramagnetic character attributed to the given substances by the presence of one or more unpaired electrons. So the paramagnetic substances, the important point, the paramagnetic substances lost their magnetism in the absence of magnetic field. These paramagnetic substances are weakly attracted by magnetic field. That's why in the absence of the magnetic field they lose their magnetism immediately. So best examples are oxygen, Cu plus 2, Fe plus 3. So Cu plus 2 also contains some unpaired electrons and Fe plus 3 also contains some unpaired electrons. Therefore the paramagnetic character of the substances attributed to the presence of the one or more unpaired electrons. Come to second one, diamagnetic substances. What are diamagnetic substances? The substances which are weakly repelled, this is important, weakly repelled by magnetic field are called diamagnetic substances. So the substances which are weakly repelled by magnetic field, that are known as diamagnetic substances. Okay, they are weakly magnetized, in a magnetic field in opposite directions. So therefore the weakly magnetized nature in a magnetic field in a opposite direction. So this is shown by those substances. So the diamagnetism shown by these substances in which all the electrons are paired and there are no unpaired electrons. This is very very important. Paramagnetism due to the presence of paired electrons. Paramagnetism due to the presence of one or more unpaired electrons. Diamagnetism attributed to the compound due to the presence of all paired electrons. There are no, this is a paired and this is unpaired. This is the presence of unpaired, the substances which are possess paramagnetic nature. Presence of all paired, they possess diamagnetic nature. They possess only diamagnetic nature. So the best example for this one is water, sodium chloride and titanium dioxide. Water, sodium chloride and titanium dioxide. So these diamagnetic substances are weakly repelled by extramagnetic field. So due to the presence of unpaired, due to the presence of all paired electrons, the substances show the property of diamagnetism. So next one, ferromagnetic substances. What are ferromagnetic substances? The substances which are strongly attracted by magnetic field are called ferromagnetic substances. Ferromagnetic substances. The substances which are weakly attracted by magnetic field means para. The substances which are strongly attracted by extramagnetic field, that are known as the ferromagnetic substances. The substances like these substances show permanent magnetism even in the absence of magnetic field. This is the important. Even in the absence of the magnetic field, due to the tendency of strong attraction towards the magnetic field, even they do not lose their magnetism in the absence of magnetic field. The best examples are iron, cobalt, nickel. So iron, cobalt, nickel are best examples for the paramagnetic substances. Next one, antiferromagnetic substances. Para, dia, ferro, antiferromagnetic substances. So what are antiferromagnetic substances? The substances which have domain structure similar to those of the ferromagnetic substances, but their domains are oppositely oriented and cancel out each other. Magnetic moment are called antiferromagnetic substances. So here the important domain structure. Domains means cloud of electrons. Domains means cloud of. This is the domain. So domains means cloud of electrons. So basing on the domain structure means cloud of electrons treated as a domain structure. So therefore the substances which have domain structure similar to those of the ferromagnetic substance, they are said to be antiferromagnetic substances. They are said to be antiferromagnetic substances, but their domains are oppositely orientated and cancel out each other. Magnetic moments are called antiferromagnetic, but the structure of the domain is same with ferromagnetic substance, but their domains are oppositely oriented and cancel out each other. Oppositely oriented and cancel each other out. Okay, the best example for this one is manganese dioxide. Best example is manganese dioxide and manganese oxide. Manganese oxide and manganese dioxides are best example for this one antiferromagnetic substance. It is very clear the difference between the antiferromagnetic substance and ferromagnetic substances. They have the same domain structure, but their orientation is different. So the domain structure of the antiferromagnetic substance is very similar with the ferromagnetic substance, but their domains are oppositely oriented and cancel to each other. Therefore their magnetic moments cancel to each other. Their magnetic moments they called as antiferromagnetic substance. Better example are manganese oxide and manganese dioxide. So next one, ferrimagnetic substances. Final one, ferrimagnetic substances. What are ferrimagnetic substances? The substances which have not magnetic moment due to the unequal parallel and anti-parallel arrangement of magnetic moments are called ferrimagnetic substances. What are they? Ferrimagnetic substances. The substances which have not magnetic moments, they do not possess any magnetic moments due to the unequal parallel and anti-parallel arrangement of magnetic moments. Unequal parallel and anti-parallel. Unequal parallel and anti-parallel. Unequal parallel and anti-parallel arrangement of magnetic moments are called ferrimagnetic substances. Okay, so this is the last classification of the magnetism, which is expressed by the given solid substances, that is known as ferrimagnetic substances which do not have any magnetic moment due to the unequal parallel and anti-parallel arrangement of magnetic momentum. Therefore, they called as ferrimagnetic substances. So they are weakly attracted by magnetic field as compared to ferromagnetic substances. Okay, so these ferrimagnetic substances are weakly attracted by magnetic field as compared to the ferromagnetic substances. How the ferromagnetic substances are weakly attracted by magnetic field? Okay, these are weakly attracted by magnetic field as compared to the ferromagnetic substance. So ferromagnetic substances are strongly attracted by magnetic field, but compare with strong attraction of ferromagnetic substances, these ferrimagnetic substances are weakly attracted by magnetic field. So the best example for this one is Fe3O4 and MgFe2O4. Fe3O4 and MgFe2O2. These are all the best example for the ferrimagnetic substances. Okay, these are all the main classification of the magnetic substances like paramagnetism, diamagnetism, ferromagnetism, ferrimagnetism and anti-ferrimagnetism. So finally I concluded what we learned in this video. So mainly in this video we are discussing about electrical properties of the solids and the magnetic properties of the solids. So electrical properties of the solids means due to the conduction nature of the given solids can be classified into insulators, conductors and semiconductors. Okay, so next one, magnetic properties. The each electron present in the given solid substance can act as a tiny magnet. So basing on the properties they are classified into paramagnetism, diamagnetism, ferromagnetism, anti-ferromagnetism and ferrimagnetism. Okay, thank you students, thank you very much.